Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Only 3 teams remain at Masters Bangkok and the European representation is no longer among them. Team Vitality eliminated from the tournament today, but G2 getting revenge emphatically over EDG. They move into the grand finals as pretty much the clear favourites for this tournament as it currently stands. Massive result for T1 as well. Roster drama hitting the timeline elsewhere, especially what's going down at MIBR right now. Very much enjoyed to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Let's just crack straight on with things. Firstly here, the new agent's coming soon. This has been a teaser shot of it today. Now, it's a duelist arriving into the game. Of course, there's been lots of talk about some similarities to Neon. That has certainly been discussed. It seems like there's some sort of dash or like short range like teleportation feature or invulnerability going on here. We can see a couple of angles of it. There's also this ability to, well, seemingly allow enemies to defy gravity, but effectively get them stuck in the air if they were to jump around a little bit. So that's kind of interesting. We'll see how this trends over the coming days, but there has been lots to talk about it. Let's dive into some Rostermania stuff, though, beginning with the following on NRG. So here's Marder talking about a few things, breaking down some terrible plays, but worthy to note, Marder is still on the team. Verno is not. Verno was benched, as was Bonkar, the coach, but of course, they'd signed these guys on pretty substantial contracts. They're not just going to let them go for free. There was a feeling that NRG, I think they even basically said this, were looking to sell Verno to another team that may have potentially been interested. We know that Verno's communication or lack of it, or maybe just from the perspective of giving his all in terms of practice and trying to be the best possible teammate and, you know, grow NRG into the team that they want to be, was conflicting to some extent with the vision of some of the other players on the team. That's why, to some extent anyway, it seems that Verno is gone, but he may well be back because of drama continuing to unfold over in the, well, Latin American region, really. Well, this being Brazil, I suppose. So, Aspas. We know that last year there was some drama because on the Leviathan team, Nosworth was gone. Con was in, it was controversial, it seemed like the team did it. There were rumours that Aspas wasn't very happy about it, and there were even rumours that that moment of Nosworth being, you know, gone from the team was the step towards Aspas eventually leaving Lev at the end of the year. But according to rumours as of yesterday, not from Noyan initially, Nosworth is gone from MIBR this time again. And shortly afterwards, this was confirmed by MIBR themselves that Nosworth is going to move effectively to the bench for the time being. So it's a big change. I mean, look, last year the rumour was Aspas wanted Nosworth to stay, but the organisation wanted him to go. This year, of course, MIBR haven't started the way that they wanted to, but, you know, the theory was that MIBR was effectively Aspas and friends, and he had the keys, right? So that's why it's raised questions on whether Aspas has, you know, changed his minds on what teammate he potentially wants. But it does seem like Nosworth is out of there, and somebody else is coming in. And according to original rumours out of Noyan, and then from elsewhere as well, the discussion is that Verno could be the man to come into MIBR. Now, that seems pretty remarkable to me. What do you guys think about this possibility, right? But according to sources, Verno is set to replace Nosworth on that MIBR roster. Now, this, of course, means a couple of things. Crucially to note, of course, the MIBR currently, as far as I'm aware, communicate in Portuguese. That would not be the case here, I imagine. So, you know, would the entire team be switched into English to make this work? Of course, the classic joke is that, no, just keep speaking in Portuguese. Verno doesn't communicate anyway, so you've got nothing to worry about there. But it's a strange decision, right, if they do this, because Verno would require a buyout from NRG, and, you know, to some extent, I'm a believer in Verno's talents. Again, obviously, I'm not convinced by his mindset and his execution and the way that things have worked out on NRG. But still, if MIBR are interested, they should be interested for good reason. But still, the potential of this move is confusing to me to change the team so drastically. Sure, I don't necessarily hate the idea of MIBR making a change. I think for Nosworth is an interesting decision, and exactly how they've come to that decision is certainly a question mark. But to bring in Verno and therefore to change loads of things about the structure seems a confusing decision to me, but if it happens, who knows? Maybe Aspes is the man to get Verno in check in terms of executing in the way that he wants him to. Maybe FNS wasn't capable, who knows? Intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. The other roster development is this one here. So Baby J, or Inspire as he is now known, tweeting out effectively contract signs graphic as we always tend to see. Now, Baby J is with the Rankers guys, right? That is the team that's currently crushing it over there in Tier 2 in the Americas. And there's been a rumour as to whether those guys would get signs to an actual professional organisation. The leading rumour as it stands is probably Envy. We don't really, there's nothing certifying this, but Envy are back in esports. They're back in potentially Valorant, who knows? They've at least been considering coming back into certain esports that they potentially were in before. And if there was any team that Envy would make sense to sign, Rankers are a team that have a very decent chance indeed of winning Ascension or making a deep run. And, you know, right now in the Americas, they're looking incredibly promising. So that's something to think about. I doubt that Inspire has just left on his own accord to go to a different team and sign there. I imagine that he'd want to stick together with his roster. But speaking of rosters that may or may not stick together, we got to discuss these final 4 at Masters Bangkok, because some big results. I couldn't make a video, unfortunately, recapping yesterday. I was super busy in the evening and there was no time on my time zone after these matches had concluded. This Edward Gaming T1 game was real interesting. You guys know that I'm a pretty big fan of this T1 team, and I feel somewhat vindicated that they've actually made a deep run of this tournament that I thought they were capable of. But yeah, Edward got the win yesterday. It was not easy though. I mean, they won the game 1 split 13-7. This was looking pretty dominant. But after that, T1 bounced back on the bind. That was the 13-6. And the Pearl was really interesting. Like, T1 could have won this, I think. Chi-Chu, absolute masterclass from him. Kankang was having a really rough time, as you guys can tell. I know that there has been lots of talk about Kankang's Yoru not really being where it should be. But a tech pause, kind of iced T1. EDG took the win. On the other side, though, G2 got the win against Vitality. I did say to you guys that I thought that, you know, G2, to me, I felt like they were going to win. I just think G2 are just too good. That's the issue. Like, when you watch them play, they're so smart, their coordination is so good, their utility is excellent. It's just really tough to catch them off guard or play in a way that's going to surprise them, really. And if you do surprise them once, good luck doing it again, because they're just going to adapt. And that's what they do so well. I feel like their structure from Valen's in-game leadership, even, you know, down to the fine details of Josh Artees and the guys over there coaching them. And the guys over in the coaching booth have just done such a stellar job. So they beat Vitality yesterday 2-0, 13-15, banger game on the binds. The G2 brought back on the second half, and then the Lotus was a 13-9. It's a great result from G2. And then today, they played Edward Gaming. And this was obviously a critical series. Edward have already beaten them earlier on in the tournament, and that was really impressive. But I did think after that Edward series, like, you know, you still don't want to overlook G2 and what these guys are capable of. And we saw it in real spades today. Kankang was kind of nowhere until a moment towards the end of the split, where he did start to deliver with the Rays, or with the Jet, sorry. It was, of course, no Rays even in this lobby, with Jorgamo running the Yoru on the other side to incredibly devastating effect. But this was one of the more dominant series that you're probably going to see any team play against EDG. And I think that, you know, Edwards have Chi-Chu, they have Kankang, like, they have the incredible talent, but also, you know, they aim incredibly well, right? They shoot really straight. Their fundamentals have always been a little bit of a question mark, and I think that that's where a team like G2, that Edward are able to beat G2. They did it just the other day. But G2 are so hard to beat, like, back-to-back times, because they're going to execute super effectively. As I said, their utility and their team play and their coordination is, I think, second to none in the entire world. And, you know, when they play their game that they want to play and they're effectively countering what the other team is trying to do, they can put such a grip and such a vice, really, on their opposition, that they just swatted the world champions aside. Certainly on the split, apart from a couple of rounds at the ends, this wasn't particularly close. So G2 dominated that series. That puts them into the grand finals of the tournament. It's no surprise to me that G2 are in the grand finals here. Will they win again, whoever they play in the finals? Who knows? I think that I'm not sure T1 can beat them or would beat them. I think Edward obviously can, but G2 are certainly the favourites given the grand finals on this performance, even as Valen said going into the series, you know, Chichu aka Son of Simple and Zyro, please forgive me when I play you today, but they 2-0'd them at G2O, as people are calling them, make it to the first ever grand finals. But the other big result was this one, right? Team Vitality. This roster, which we had serious questions over, looked incredibly good on paper, but I was, you know, I said this going into the tournament, I wasn't very impressed by the strength and depth of the European region. So I was wondering when their best team in Vitality, who won their region, gets here to the Bangkok tournament, whether it's going to really go to plan. But T1, they handle business. Like, great to see from Buzz and Izu, especially Meteor, like, you know, you guys know that I like this team, but the fact that they beat Vitality in the way that they did after losing the Lotus 14-12, you know, they'll feel like they should have won this. They're up 8-4, they're up 10-4. Like, this was a map that T1 kind of threw away on the second half, but Vitality did well to capitalize. But fair play to T1, because I often feel like this team in the past, with some of their previous iterations, the mental resilience, the mental stability has not necessarily been there. But to go back on Vitality's map pick, dominate their Haven 13-4, and then smash them on the split, I mean, you know, there was just nothing that Vitality were even doing on the map. So, yeah, very interesting to see this team because, you know, super team on paper and all of that. They turn up here against a full Korean squad. Of course, they are very much a mixed nationality team, and it really doesn't go to plan. So lots potentially to learn there for Vitality, but there was a lot of talk about it, right? Because as Izu says on the timeline, these were the power rankings and plat chat going into the tourney, and they had T1 and 8th, which I thought was pretty outrageous. Vitality first, I guess I could see why they could justify that. But yeah, I didn't think T1 were this bad. And it turns out they've beaten Vitality particularly comfortably at the end of the tournament. But of course, that is only the first few games of the playoffs. There are still a couple of matches to go. The big one really is, of course, the grand finals. But before we get there, it's Edward T1. So this is going to determine who rematches G2 in the finals. Is it going to be an Edward rematch, or is it going to be T1 making it there instead? Look, Edward are going to be the favourites. I think they might win this 3-2, but I think it's going to be a close fought affair. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in a comment section below. Durka was not happy about going home in the way that he did. He says, individually, I feel disappointed in myself. Feel like I could do way better because, you know, for some of them, it's an achievement to get this far, but in the tournament, it's obviously, you know, he's not very happy about losing, but he says, look, the year's not over. We will come back stronger from here. So hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.